Hey guys, what's up? In the bunker here. So guys, in today's video we are going to discuss most popular video games if you actually were a kid in Stranger Things, 1983 to 1985. Centipede. The Palace Arcade is home to several different classic cabinets seen across the nation in other gaming galleries and pizza parlors. Before Nintendo was king, the biggest name in the gaming industry was arguably Atari. Few arcades would be complete without the inclusion of this bug-blasting title. Next to Pong, Centipede is probably the most recognizable game in the original Atari library. Its simple yet addicting formula is easy to pick up yet hard to master, especially with the titular bug getting longer and faster with each ascending level. Some serious button mashing is definitely required to conquer this game. Tempest. Another game featured in the Palace is Tempest. At the time, Tempest was the stepping stone meant to launch Atari into the next generation of gamers, focusing on a three-dimensional playing field instead of a vertical or a horizontal one. While it was ultimately something of a last hurrah, that's no denying it isn't an enjoyable and psychedelic title. Described by some as a take on Space Invaders, Tempest had players blasting away geometric enemies climbing down variously shaped tunnels. A basic descriptor, but it made for addicting and challenging gameplay that rocked many arcades for years. Asteroids. This somewhat basic title is one of the cornerstones on which arcade games are built. One of the first iconic space shooters, the game is the living definition of the term, simple yet effective. All the player has to do to survive a round of asteroids is blast away space rocks that come hurtling toward them without getting crunched themselves. Although it lacks the aliens, incoming projectiles, and other trimmings and trappings the genre would be known for later, the game has a certain timeless quality. In short, sometimes the best approach is indeed the simplest and least complicated. Galaga. If there's one space shooter that nearly everyone and their brother has played, it would probably be Galaga. To put it briefly, Namco essentially took all the elements games like Space Invaders brought to the table and upgraded them significantly. The result was an instant classic that devoured tokens faster than a Demogorgon on a fresh kill. Unlike most games in the genre that simply had players blasting away whatever monster entered their field of vision, Galaga had at least some form of strategy to clear away each screen. Throw in the feature of earning an additional spaceship to help beat back the 8-bit creatures, and the result is an arcade hit. Dig Dug. Although it might take a few rounds to get as good as Mad Max, players don't have to live in Hawkins to play this quirky little adventure. From the makers of games like Galaga and Pac-Man, Dig Dug has players clearing the screen of monsters and hazards deep under the ground. It's not the most challenging game in the arcade, but it's certainly one of the most fun and easy to manage. There's a certain sense that the player has a slight advantage over the dopey monsters that get in their way. Even so, the fire-breathing dragons do pose a particular annoyance. Pac-Man. No arcade would be complete without at least one Pac-Man machine, or at least some variant. For years, Pac-Man was the face of the arcade industry, scarfing down more quarters than dots on a good day. So it makes complete and total sense that the arcade in Hawkins would have both Pac-Man and MS Pac-Man ready to play for any gang of geeks on a Saturday night. It seems like there still hasn't been a cure for Pac-Man fever. Next to a game like Tetris, Pac-Man is perhaps one of the most accessible arcade games players can get their mitts on. Available across a variety of consoles, and even earning a recent extensive compilation, there are plenty of ways to pick up and play this game. Dragon's Lair. Perhaps the most visually memorable title amongst the Palace Arcade's collection of games is Dragon's Lair. At the time, the game was one of the most ambitious projects that the industry had seen. With branching pathways, a familiar fantasy narrative, and animation by the legendary Don Bluth, it was simply a masterpiece of 80s gaming. Essentially a playable animated movie, the game was of course an incredible feat for the time. With its fantasy elements and addictive nature, it makes sense that players like Lucas, Dustin, Mike, and Will would jump at the chance to play it, if only to finally reach the game's ending. So guys, this was all about today's video. Share as much as you can, that really motivates us to create more content for you guys. With this, we end our video. Hope you liked the video.